This is part 1 of 2 of my interview with Robyn Scott. This episode contains profanity, adult jokes, and some discussion that may be considered triggering, including talks about gender identity, and LGBTQ issues. Enjoy the show. This podcast was brought to you by Borzilla Entertainment, LLC. Borzilla, roar. Borzilla, roar. They strip search along the children. And then we fucking leave.
You fuck and leave?
No, we...
I'm still tore up over her people.
Preacher would get so mad about, worrying about us fornicating.
We all try to get along.
My face ain't normal, it's a damn newspaper.
To get along.
Ain't normal. There's something odd in that.
We all try to get.
The hardest part for me to swallow
was the pastor.
Is
I woke up this morning and I packed a suitcase.
There's no normal life, White. It's just life. Get on with it.
All right, welcome back to the Ain't Normal podcast. Today my guest is Robyn.
Hello.
All right, so how are you doing today?
I'm good. Nice rainy, lazy day. Well, not rainy, just muggy.
Yeah, it's been, I'll take it over that sludge we had the other day. That was insane.
Amen.
I had to drive home from work, and just like driving through a slush puppy. That was the scariest thing I've driven in forever, and I wrecked my car 2 weeks ago, so that's why this episode is delayed a little. But even that wasn't as scary as what I had to drive through to get home from work the other day, so I'll take not driving in an icy any day there is. So, first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am born and raised South Carolinian. Haven't left the state yet. Probably won't. Probably get to die here. I'm not sure if that's something to be proud of or sad about. 41 years old, stand-up comic. My 9 to 5 is retail, which means I'm cynical and burn out and hate most of the world at this point.
I get that.
And for those at home, I am a transgender female.
All right. That kind of gets into what ain't normal. Apologize for the ableist language in the title of the podcast. But I guess we do this thing here called Pimp Your Shit. It's our attempt to let people, as a thank you for coming on, promote anything you're doing if anything's coming up. Or
well, I'm on a show at a secret place.
That wouldn't be hashtag somewhere, would it?
Hashtag somewhere, yes. Our friends have opened a speakeasy that, for those that are listening, if you can solve the riddle, it will get you there. Somewhere under the bear, 7 blocks from where the man checks his watch. If you can solve that riddle, you can go somewhere. But I will be performing New Year's Eve there. Not really got a lot lined up for the rest of the year. With the retail, I don't have much free time during this time of the year.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has got to be a terrible time to be in retail.
Yeah, it's fun. We get complaints every 5 minutes because we're sold out of something. It's crazy.
It's like, yeah, well, blame the people who made the product and decided that,
Yeah.
limited, and blame us, our psychology of if something's limited, then we have to have it now.
Yeah. I blame Nintendo. They did that to us.
Oh, yeah. I remember as a kid driving all around the state to get Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. And we started in Orangeburg and ended in Charleston until we finally got like a last copy of the Toys R Us.
Yep.
But speaking of Pimp Your Shit, if anybody remembers Christie's timeless depiction, she's been posting some stuff on Facebook. She tries to take some interesting photographs. She kind of teased us. She said that she wanted to take pictures of people naked, but it's on Facebook. Yeah, and she pronounced it that way. That's not me. But it was on Facebook. She has some interesting photos. Nothing that looks like there's any nudity or anything. But again, Facebook's decency standards.
Yeah, you can cuss somebody out. You can call them anything you want.
Oh, yeah.
They'll suspend you, slap you on the wrist. But nudity? Nope, can't have that.
No. Can't show a nipple, which is funny to me because I had a shirtless pic from when I was a teenager on a while back. And then I did a shirtless comparison of, I really weighed the same, but I'd spent 6 months lifting and, bulked up a little bit. And one of my friends posted, can I Photoshop your nipples, cut them out, and put them on me so that I can actually show my boobs on Facebook?
Yeah, it's nuts. I don't know, and I get it, it's standards, and we'll go off into a whole tangent of the female breast. And there's some fun laws that are actually messing with trans also. So
I'm sure, I can't imagine.
Yeah, imagine this. I'm a trans female, meaning I was assigned male at birth.
Right.
But I have breasts. They're pretty pronounced. These aren't like, oh, this is somebody with moves. No, I have female breasts.
Yes.
What would happen if I was walking around topless? Would I be arrested?
Well, it depends. They're so crazy over where you go to the bathroom, so,
Yeah, exactly.
They shouldn't say anything.
Somebody's actually, there's a trans performer that had got I think more drag, I'm not exactly sure of the terminology specifically in this one, but I think it was a drag queen that still performs in that drag style makeup, but is a trans woman.
Right.
And she was being booked in Chicago, and the club that booked her will not allow topless women, but Chicago will also not recognize her as a woman. So there's your
Here comes your protest.
No, she's actually got a lawsuit. If you really think about it, and I don't care where anybody has their ideas, but if you think about it, there has to be a clear definition there.
If you think about it, that could set precedent that makes her a woman in the eyes of the law, which
will then upset a whole bunch of people on the right.
Exactly.
Or they.
I don't understand why a nipple's so dangerous in our country anyway. I guess it's whatever you cover up.
It was.
Yeah, whatever you cover up.
Yeah, the breast is the difference. The nipple's a little bit bigger around.
Yeah.
It's the boob is the actual difference between the male and the female for the most part.
Yeah, you look at. I don't know.
But then again, you get on Facebook and you can have Nazis and not nipples. So.
You could have Band-Aids over your nipples and show the entire rest of the breast, and nobody cares.
Exactly.
So I want to go over a little terminology just for this. I'd say you're definitely my only trans friend, and we don't know each other that well. We did a now defunct podcast together called the Southern Fried Picture Show, and so we did a trivia game, and I won, which meant you had to review the item. So did you come prepared to review? No.
I actually had my book report prepared for the second podcast. I watched that atrocious movie.
I had to
so bad on so many levels, and so great in that same respect.
I texted Kevin today to ask what that the title was. I couldn't think of it. I'm just going to spring it on. And now, are you prepared to? It's been so long. Are you prepared to do your review of the item? I'm not watching that movie unless Kevin has a party for it or something.
The director was one of the main villains. I remember it was so bad. I remember parts of it.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Well, the fact is, he made us watch The Greasy Strangler before that, so if it was anywhere in the vein of, which, that wasn't so much bad as just weird. Yeah. That could go for an Ain't Normal movie review. So this has been one of my pet, not projects or anything, it's just that it's one of the things I've gotten a lot of people to hate me on Facebook is actually being pro-LGBTQ,
LMNOP.
I feel kind of odd because one, white, cisgender male, from the South, it's like I won the lottery as far as all the things that people don't have a problem with, people, I'm a man, I get to share my opinions, people don't call me bossy, I appreciate you being here just for the diversity it brings.
No, I've always said I'm an open book. Ask any question. I've not in a true setting where it's not inappropriate to ask.
Yeah.
I will tell you anything you want to know.
Yeah, that's another reason I want to do this. Like with Moo Chris's story. I know he gets asked a ton of times, hey, how much weight have you lost? And, tell me the story. And now he's got a place where, you know what, I've answered these questions. just listen here. And I kind of, if I ask something that may be inappropriate socially, then at least it's here kind of,
Right,
thing.
no.
And that's not going to be my intention. I will throw a trigger warning. I'll probably record it with you here at the end of the conversation, to throw at the front of the episode, just so I know what's been said and everything.
Right, and understand, even though I'm in the community, I still misspeak.
Well, I mean, RuPaul got in trouble for saying tranny, I believe it was.
And I use that word more than anybody, but it's also, for me, it's a lot like the N-word.
I was about to say.
We're Southern, I used it, I know that.
It's like,
But
yeah.
I got smarter when I started listening to that marginalized group.
Yeah.
When I actually wanted to learn things that wasn't told to me by the news or told to me on TV, or something that from a 5-second encounter with some random stranger.
Yeah.
So when I got to be friends with people where I felt comfortable asking, same thing as here, I would ask. And I learned a lot more. And it opened my eyes. I mean, there's things I probably still will never understand, but it changed my perspective on a lot of things. And that's what my hope is instead of someone having all these crazy assumptions about trans or gay or all this, thinking we're demanding everything, it's like, no, we just want to be treated like people are left alone.
And that's a lot from these, I'm so persecuted. It's crazy to me that, like, most likely to bully people are always so scared of something. They're always so scared of, you're going to go in there with my little girl and my wife in the bathroom, or you're, if I don't call them by the right 13 numbered, name, then they're going to have me fired. And, I've taught a trans student once, and, to a little of my embarrassment, here's what happened. It wasn't my class. It was, I was teaching biology at the time, biology lab. They asked me if I would substitute a chemistry lab, but, taught 2 back-to-back, very similar classes. They were surprised I let them do so much, because apparently they had, like, one of the guys that taught chemistry classes that came in, and he did everything first and then had them repeat what he did. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm going to read the instruction manual and, go through the PowerPoints and be like, hey, this is what you do if you have any questions. Ask me. I've looked. There's nothing really dangerous here. Go crazy. I'll kind of keep an eye on everybody. But in the first class, I had this young lady, pixie cut, short hair, looked kind of feminine, and it wasn't my class. I just passed the roll around. I didn't call attendance. Then second class, now I'm super tired. I've been in classes myself all day learning. Now I've got to teach the second class. I'm going on 6 hours here. About halfway through, this guy comes up and says, hey, my lab partner is feeling sick. It's okay if they go home. And I'm like, yeah, sure, as long as you're okay of doing the rest of the work, and she can catch the notes or whatever. And he goes, yeah, also, it's a guy. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, the last class there was, and he just kind of shook his head at me like, dude, don't try to crawl out of this one. That's the level of embarrassment that somebody has when something like that happens. People have talked about this Canadian law where, man, if you don't call people by their proper pronoun, they're going to fire you. And no, the truth is, what they're saying is, don't be a dick. Don't discriminate. They're protecting trans people. That's it. In the same way that you would protect, black people, atheists, and the civil rights, different religions other than Christianity, in the Civil Rights Act, which didn't cover the LGBTQ community or even just gay people. But the real actual thing isn't somebody coming up, well, I want to be called this 13-digit number now. The real thing is somebody might be like, no, that's George. And when I went back to the role, there was a traditional woman's name within parentheses, traditional man's name in the parentheses. And I'm like, oh shit! Now I feel like a dick. But that's the extent of what harmed me. Nobody called for my job. Nobody made an issue. Dude just looked at me like, no, dude, it's a dude. And that's, I think, these people who are making up, oh, they're gonna fire me and they're gonna arrest you for saying the wrong thing. It's just horseshit. It's just fake outrage.
Yeah, it's not. Okay, this is kind of going back to tranny or the N-word and everything.
The hard R state here in South Carolina.
Yeah. That apparently on that means that for a Republican. It's like,
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
But, okay, we all have that black friend that you can go to and say, hey, that's my N-word.
Yeah.
And they don't mind because they may, but if they tell you they mind, please listen to them because after that point you are being a dick. But if they're okay with you joking with them personally, y'all can crack those little, friendly jabs at each other. Those when we say the dumb jokes that are the most stupid thing and awful thing you could say, and everybody knows you really are not meaning these things. That's different. Going to a random black person saying, "Hey, you might," and you get your jaw busted open, you earned it.
Yeah, Neil Brennan has a whole. He has some great bits on it. He says he's got a pass just because, just because of his place in the black community.
Right.
But again, it was just because he's like, I get called that so many times. I just say it to myself, like, you need to get some lunch. It's like it's a voice in my own head at this point.
Yep.
So
I treat trade the same way. It's all intent.
Oh yeah.
If you know me and we can cut up and I can say something crazy to you, you say something crazy to me, we know we love each other at the end, I don't mind because I know you're coming at me with respect. You're respecting my pronouns, my name, who I am.
Right.
Not a big deal. When you're deliberately coming at me and saying these derogatory terms and it's in hatefulness, well, that's your hate speech. When you refuse to use my legal name, wasn't my birth name, but my legal name, it doesn't hurt me like some people want to think. I lived by that name for 37 years. It just makes you a dick.
No, and this does, and I know this is a far, far less of an aggression, but, my last name is not pronounced the same way it's spelled. And when I meet somebody new, sometimes they'll say, Heatley. I'm like, no, it's actually Hetley. And they'll, well, I'm not going to call you that. Oh, so you're just going to be an asshole. And then they really do it. And I'm like, no, I'm like, that's not my name. I'd appreciate you because in what world is that acceptable etiquette? You know what I mean?
The actual perfect response I had to that, and this was a friend I hadn't seen in years, ran into him at the mall shopping, and probably around this time a couple years ago. And we talked, and I hadn't had my name legally changed yet, but as far as the world knew, Facebook and everything, I'm Robyn.
Yeah.
And we talked and everything, and he used my dead name, and it's not that it hurts my feelings or crushes me, it's like, no, my name is Robyn now.
Yeah.
He said, well, I'm still going to call you such and such. I went, well, we're not going to have a conversation.
Then I'm not going to respond to anything you say.
It's like I kicked him between the legs. He was like, well, what? This is my name.
I've had...
We got history. You'll slip up. I understand, but you are deliberately saying, I'm going to be a dickhead to you, and you're going to get over it. No.
No, and I've had exactly those things. Like, again, there's... I guess with you it probably is similar to the same thing, because like you said, it doesn't hurt me, it's just, you're just being an asshole for no reason. Yep. Like, you're not even being a dick anymore. You're being a dick the first time you did it. Now you're being an asshole, because you know exactly what you're doing, and you're continuing to do it.
Yeah, well, it's like the pronouns.
Yeah.
And my friends, the ones who actually care, you can tell, because they'll slip up, and in the beginning especially, they've known me as male for 37 years, so of course, overnight, it's not a...
Yeah.
It changed, especially when my transition was early. I really did, as much as I wish I hadn't, look like a man in a dress.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for transitions, the same for trans males. But so that visual cue, somebody will look at you, and this is the part that kills me. I know there are still things about me that are still a little masculine. My shoulders are still a little broad, my hands are large. I'm a tall person. Especially for a woman, I'm 5'11", so for a woman, that's on the high end.
Oh, yeah.
But when someone looks and they deliver, thank you, sir, and I go, I'll just look dead right at the guy and go, you're welcome, ma'am. And they get this crazy look on their face like I'm wearing makeup, and I mean full face, top to bottom. Today I'm bummed out.
Yeah.
I'm a D cup. Natural D cup.
Good Lord.
If you're looking at my boobs and saying thank you, sir, what kind of weird fetish do you have going on in your head?
Okay, I had a good friend. Are you familiar with Ansley Park, Atlanta?
A little bit, yeah.
We used to go to there. And this is an embarrassing story about my buddy that he passed away almost 10 years ago now, but we used to eat there all the time. He was kind of a right-wing guy, Republican guy, but he was also just salt of the earth, big heart, loved with his whole heart, like, just you see a big hug, he would do anything in the world for almost anyone in the world. and we were sitting in this cafeteria, and we'd been there 10 times, and sometimes we had this server who would come in and like look like a man, but have breasts, like pronounced breasts.
Right.
And it's a very gay area of town, like it's where all the gay people hang out. It's where trans people. There's often, I think they called him Baton Bob. There was somebody.
That's a name.
It was this gay dude that would dance in the street twirling batons. And if that's not a name, and I've just like maligned this person, I'm sorry. But that was what I heard this person's name was. Be like right at an intersection, just twirling batons. Sometimes in a majorette, yeah. Sometimes in a majorette uniform, very flamboyant, very over the top. This was always right outside. We went to the bank one day and there was a guy just kind of talking us up, it's just like, kind of flirting, so you kind of expect this may be an area where trans people are, feel comfortable and everything. But as we go out, either we forgot to tip or was paying my credit card. Now I gotta bleep his name. He's paying my credit card, and he's like, "Oh, we need to leave a tip for the lady that was the." And Norman goes, "Jimmy." He's like, "Yeah, that was Jimmy." He just kind of like head down, sheepishly left. It's like, so apparently it was just a dude with gynecomastia or whatever. It's like, oh no, now I'm embarrassed, super embarrassed, and I'm kind of glad I never planned on telling that story, but like, this is a dick joke podcast, and I feel like, I don't want to get too heavy, but there's a lot of things I want to say. Again, I don't know why, other than just not wanting to be a dick in my life. Like, I grew up with all of the stereotypes and hatred. I could have been one of those guys in Charlottesville, with the background I had,
Yeah.
It's not something I'm proud of. It's not, you know what I mean?
You wanted stories. I can tell you stories.
I'm sure. Because, well, you figure you grew up here. I grew up 140 miles east of here. Or, no, more like 180 miles east of here. I don't know if you know what it's like. It's a little different level of tension. It's, you know.
The closer you get to the coast, the more...
Yeah, where all the...
It's the heart of racism.
Yeah, it really is. You're talking...
The further west you go...
50 miles from, like, where they still have the slave mart on the street, So you're like... So where, friends of mine are cotton farmers, and, that... It's like, that racism down there is magnifique. So, and all of those things seem to go hand in hand. My mom had a cousin who was gay, and I had a cousin who was gay that people just put their head in the sand about it. But my mom's cousin, it was like her age. There was no head in the sand about it. And they kind of, honestly, just kind of forgot about him post 85-ish, 86-ish after, some high profile AIDS cases.
I have a cousin that lives in Atlanta. He's gay, hairdresser.
Yeah.
AIDS.
Yeah. Well, now so many people have HIV that like they're not even transmitting it and everything.
No, with all the PrEP stuff and everything now, it's you pretty much have to be stupid.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad that there was a lot of ignorance that there was a lack of focus originally, and then there was a lot of ignorance that led to so many people dying. Because I'm a big I'm very outspoken against anti-vaxxers and them trying to link autism. It was the same kind of stuff going on. The guy that was the Dallas Buyers Club guy, that guy shouldn't have been celebrated. He was doing some dangerous shit, Yeah. He probably caused people to die, Anyway, I want to try to get a few things with terminology out the way. Just, this isn't an education podcast, but it's just for, I don't know. I feel like maybe at some point it'll reach somebody who's not.
Who actually cares.
Somebody who, like, they pretend, look, I don't mind anything, but then they act like an asshole. But, like, maybe if they really don't mind.
Well, no, it's like racism. It's like, no, you're not racist to the point where you want to see somebody hanged.
Yeah.
But you still like your car doors in a black neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're racist.
You can't.
We're all racist because society, our families, our cultures made us. That's when you have to fight so hard to not have those preconceived notions.
I guess the thing that, like, I don't even remember exactly how it ends, but you remember the was a Samuel L. Jackson, Matthew McConaughey movie. Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell. That one. It ends with like Matthew McConaughey's giving the big speech about the young girl that's been raped and murdered, and then like to an all-white jury, and Samuel L. Jackson had killed a bunch of Klansmen that had raped and murdered her or something.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name.
And he ends, he's like, imagine this girl is blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, now imagine she's white. I'm like, well, fuck, if they could imagine, real empathy for a black person, if they really considered them people like the way we're people, then, yeah, you wouldn't have to make a grand speech to begin with. You just were like, they raped and murdered a fucking child. That's all you'd have to say. Like if they had that switch that wouldn't turn off, and it's, there's just, for some reason, there are certain things people have an ick factor, and the problem is some of those people get in control, and then they brainwash a bunch of other people to have an ick factor about things that they would normally be like, oh yeah, well, I don't care. Like,
kids, you aren't born racist.
Some probably are, but I mean, the majority are just going along with what society they're raised in.
Yeah.
So sex and gender identity. Some of this I got from a sociology book. Like, the Canadians are nice enough to put their fucking textbooks online for free. So this is from Intro to Sociology, first Canadian edition by William Little. Sex refers to physical or physiological differences between males, females, including the primary sex characteristics and secondary. Primary being the reproductive system, secondary as height and muscularity. And I'm going to get back to this because I'm going to spend some time talking about biology. It's a hobby of mine. I have a biology degree, another science degree very related to biology.
So we're not talking elementary XXXY. We're going to talk.
No, we're going to talk.
Good.
We're going to talk about the exceptions to the XXXY.
So people are going to learn some things.
Yes.
Awesome.
So that's why I wanted to ask. That's why I asked you how much time do you have, because we're going to play a little quiz there. Or we're going to play a little trivia. Not like a legit trivia game, but I'm going to ask you about some stuff maybe you don't know, and then I had to look up the names of stuff. Gender, term that refers to social or cultural distinctions associated with being male or female. Gender identity is to the extent you identify to one or another. And sometimes, remind me, there's a joke I'm trying to prepare based on this. Sometimes people are non-binary or genderqueer, as some people say it. I don't feel comfortable saying that. But
queer is, again, back to that term, queer is being reclaimed, kind of like.
Well, now genderqueer is supposedly non-binary. Like that came through. I'm not going to mention my place of work, but it came through in a memo on my place of work about asking people with what gender they identify, and they had male, female / genderqueer. I'm like, I would have gone with non-binary in that.
Non-binary would have, but I can guarantee you, as anybody in the community, 99% of us would have been like, great, they used the word we use.
Yeah.
Majority of them, here's my fun thing. If someone's being a jerk, be offended for someone else.
Yeah.
If someone's trying to be educated, do not attack them because they used the wrong term.
Yeah.
Educate them.
It's like the Patton Oswalt bit. I don't care. Now, on the other hand, if a guy is like the Patton Oswalt joke, I don't care if two homos want to bang wieners together and blah, blah, blah. Like, what business is it of mine? If that guy's like, hey, man, how about don't say homo and don't, that guy's probably going to be like, oh, shit, my bad. It's like I was watching Queer Eye, and that there's this one guy's like, now, which one of you is the man and which one's the woman? And they're like, yeah, we don't really, that's not really a thing. It's kind of considered offensive. Oh, my bad. Never been around gay people before,
I've started learning things like that. I did something, you know how when somebody says something and they don't hear you or, don't pay you attention, you kind of do the whole, and I'm realizing now what I did was offensive, but you talk in a speaking voice like this, like you're doing sign language.
Again, there's always going to be the ableist
this
triggers
is something
on this.
I did, and I was a moron about it. And I did this to a kid, trying to get him to talk at the counter playing, and I just realized afterwards, Mom gave me this go down look, and I'm like, but. And it just, the light bulb went off.
Actual deaf kid?
Years old, and it took me a minute. I'm like, oh, God. No. He wasn't. He was, oh, God. I wouldn't have a child. Justifiably, too, but it wasn't something I was trying to be mean or disrespectful about. I was cutting up and playing, and then afterwards I'm like, dang, she got angry because he wouldn't talk, and I was trying to get the kid to lighten up and talk.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh God, I was a jerk.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was an idiot. The term I Jewed them down.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was offensive until I was watching Family Guy one day, and Peter said, "Yeah, I let them down." I was like,
Oh God.
And it just, there's certain things that were so common in our culture that, like that, you just don't think outside of your box sometimes, and when you finally get woken up, you realize, oh God, I've been a jerk for a long time.
I like this when people from the North or Midwest will come down here and be like, everybody's so racist in the South, and I'll just ask them, what did you call Brazil nuts growing up? Because, you know what, I don't think it's just us. I've been to Boston. Like, Boston is a fucking racist town.
Oh God, they have everybody.
You know, yeah, it's, but yeah.
And it was me. It's like I never understood that you referred to a race or a religion. I'm like,
oh yeah. Well, I mean, even gyp, like I got gypped, it originally comes from Judaism. Like and we think of like Romanian gypsies and stuff now, but it was still like it started as an anti-Semitic term.
That I didn't know. I didn't know it went that far.
Yeah, it's yeah, God. Oh, there's so much dog whistling now going against the Jewish people with.
Right. Well, now here's the question too, and this is kind of where some of the arguments are. Are there any true gypsies nowadays? And I'm not talking about the TLC or Discovery Channel, trailer park people.
Yeah, my big fat gypsy wedding.
Yeah, I'm not talking.
I didn't realize that was a thing until this week.
Yeah, let's be honest. I have a friend that's a comic, and I call her a gypsy because she's a roamer.
Yeah. She
does not stay in one place. I think right now she's living off grid, living in a tent in New Jersey. And in a part of me, I love that freedom to do what you want to do. The other part, I hate the thought that I don't have a place to go tonight that's going to be warm or, aspiring, that kind of thing. And I'm not liking or praising either way. But is gypsy really, or gyp in this reflection, actually an offensive term today? Has the gypsy...
Has there been enough time? Oh.
Right. That's more my thing. It's like, is there a gypsy that this actually offends now, or is this a statement for something where, not long enough?
Yeah.
Or like one of those, like every comic says, too soon?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a couple thousand years. So
yeah.
That's the question, is this term relevantly still offensive? And if it isn't...
Yeah. Well, when will it get grandfathered in?
Right.
In the same way that and one of the guys at the open mic in Greenville said this, and I'm sure he's not the only one to remark about it. But we got Genghis Grill in Greenville. How long before you have Hitler's hot dogs? I mean, it's at what point? He's just a guy that killed a lot of people, and that's celebrated in all of history. I don't expect it to come anytime soon. I think what he said was actually more offensive than that, but I wasn't gonna.
I think I remember the comic it was that said that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name him, but yeah.
I'm also not going to tell the joke the way he told it, but it was funny.
Yeah. I mean, it's a comic's job to push that.
Oh.
And we do cross the line sometimes. That's definite. Trying to walk that line and be provocative, you will step over and you will be a jerk. And you have to own the fact that you're an asshole and improve, be better.
Yeah, I just don't like people punching down. You gotta, there are people who are like, man, everybody's too PC, and I think Brian Posehn on 25 times 2 does a great bit, starting with that premise that, Seinfeld and Chris Rock are afraid to go to colleges now. A couple of billionaires can't relate to college kids. It's like, Bill Burr, he might complain that everybody's so sensitive because, people keep taking clips of his and Bill Burr goes on a rant or whatever, but he doesn't ever complain about the crowd. It's your job to win the crowd. The crowd's going to be the crowd. I'm not saying there aren't bad crowds, but I mean,
I've performed in front of predominantly black crowds, predominantly white crowds. I've performed in Asheville, where it's predominantly hard left. One of my opening bits is, make a pick at conservatives, and it's a joke. But if you pay attention to this administration, it fits pretty well.
Yeah.
It's how thanks for coming. Let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. I'm what the conservatives, or what the liberals like to refer to as a delicate, snowflake, trans female. Conservatives have a slightly different name for me. It's one you may have heard before. It's a little more near and dear to my heart. It's kill it! and it breaks the tension. And honestly, you get a laugh from 99%, except for that one person who's like, "But I'm a Republican."
Yeah.
And it's like, it's okay. I'm mocking the stupidity that we both have on the hard left and the hard right. Most of these people are idiots.
Yeah. I swear, the snowflake one pisses me off too, because I know a lot of people who, they use it, they'll throw it at people. At some level, there's like, I don't want to be PC. It's like, alright, are people being too PC, or are you being an asshole? If you're one of those people who can't hear a fuck or a motherfucker or somebody make a Jesus joke, but you want to drop, gay slurs, trans slurs, slurs against blacks, Jews, whatever, and you're like, people are too sensitive when I'm making fun of them and punching down, you're an asshole. I mean, I could sit there and tell jokes I grew up with and get a laugh in the right room, but, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, and they weren't, they're not funny. I don't, I've had people at work, like, you're 40 and well, now I'm damn near 43, still single. You don't got a girlfriend? Huh? And I'm like, what, are you implying I might be gay? Is it your fucking business? What if I just go out and suck dicks all weekend? It's none of your fucking business. It's not funny. I'm kind of ready for it to stop being funny to people. You know what I mean?
That's very specifically the same with the trans community.
Yeah.
If you ever notice, anytime... Now, if it's a show about the trans community, it's very rare the trans person is the joke. But if it's a straight movie, there's go back to Crocodile Dundee. Now, granted, it's a little, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
again, it's like Baby Cold. It's called outside.
20 years ago, every movie was like, "Hey, that's a dude," Yeah,
and that was the running joke.
Yeah,
it's like, "Baby, it's cold outside." It's outdated. If you look at it through today's filters, yeah, that's creepy as shit.
I've also, you hear that it was you shared that video, which, you hear the thing. It's really about women's liberation and everything. Like, no, that video looked like Pepe Le Pew cartoon.
Yeah, really.
That was very rapey. The original movie and
by today's standards.
And on both sides, the woman on the second part of that video was more rapey than the dude in the first part.
I know. And that's the thing. It's like, I get it. I listen to it. It's fine, and I think it's a fine song. Because it was written, the 30s, 40s?
I think this is 78 years ago it was released or something ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking that time frame, so yeah, it's been a very, very long time ago.
Well, again,
by today's glasses, with today's filters and all, yeah, it's creepy about today's.
That predates no means no. That
it really does.
I mean, you got to realize in our lifetime, around the time we started dating, or maybe probably a few years before, the term date rape was invented.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't dating, but I mean, I was a child old enough to remember it being discussed.
Yeah, Hypnol wasn't a thing back when that song was made, so wouldn't disagree. Doesn't mean the same as it does now. Wasn't a straight today.
Yeah, people still slipping my Mickey, see? I'm 43 years old, I still don't know what a Mickey is.
Me either, I've always wanted one.
You can knock the fuck out.
I've used that as part of one of my jokes also.
Just leave my glass.
I'll go to the bathroom and come back, my beer's untouched. It's like, really? Do I gotta live by a dumpster and try to meet a nice swimmer?
Norm MacDonald's got something similar. He's also talked about it. Yeah, my parents always told me that somebody was going to put LSD in these Cracker Jack stickers or something. It's like, not fucking once has anybody ever intentionally given me drugs that I didn't know about. It's like, I've been waiting any time now. Okay.
It's like every Halloween. Be careful, check your kid's stuff. It's like...
Only people do that is people doing that to their family.
Yeah, you check the stuff to make sure you're not eating a razor blade or a needle, because there is some sick asshole.
Yeah, and usually that's people doing that to their own family.
Yeah. I understand that. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying I understand.
Exactly. All right, sexual orientation. This one, along with gender identity, I think is important because I guess at some point I had this issue too. When you think trans people think, well, this person wants to be a woman, they must want some dick. There's like there's that attitude of like this, because you can't understand it if you're a straight guy, but then I don't have to feel like somebody else's feel to understand that they feel different from me. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think, do you know who Callie Wright is? Callie Wright. One of my favorite podcasters. She does Gaytheist Manifesto.
I can't say I do.
So I kind of discovered her. I listen to all the secular podcasts until they piss me off or until I just get bored of them. I really got into Thomas Smith. He had a great idea. I'm going to read the Bible and make fun of it because he'd never read it all the way through. And he's just reading it and saying whatever pops in his head. Somebody ripped him off and did my Book of Mormon podcast. So Thomas also had Atheistically Speaking, which became Serious Inquiries Only, so he could get more guests because people don't like to go on an atheist show. He's got a legal podcast focused on social justice and the law, like as far as politics go. It's not too political, because he saves that for Serious Inquiries Only, but he had a panel one time on either Atheistically Speaking or Serious Inquiries Only. Had Callie Wright, had Danielle Moscato, who used to be Dave Moscato from the American Atheist. Worked with whatever rapey guy that just left there. Allegedly rapey guy that just left there. But yeah, so I got like a better understanding listening to that. Kevin asked me the other day, is like, what's your voice? I know you have a voice, but what do you want for your podcast? And really, I want to humanize people through stories, but also, as much as a lot of my friends don't care for the social justice movement, I'm not going to be a part of the movement, but I do have an eye towards social justice. I do have an eye towards trying to educate people. And a lot of it is just people just don't want to hear anymore. And it's like, but if you keep beating them over the head, I had a guy the other day say he was mad about one of the Avengers movies or something. Cause like, I feel like they're trying to force trans stuff on us. I mean, which I'm fine with trans people, the ultimate statement, I'm not fine with trans people. But like, just putting that shit in the movies ain't gonna change nothing. I'm like, you realize, like, did you see Will and Grace? Cause like, there was like a 20%, like the swap on people that supported gay marriage from when that started to now went from 40% of people for, 60 against, to now it's almost like, 65% for? Almost everybody's for now.
It dropped back down a little shortly after Trump got in office.
Go figure.
Well, and again, this is back to, and I'm not going to start politics.
Right.
But back to the thing, yeah, the voice matters because Trump, I can go deep on him, and I'm not even talking about just bashing him. I'm talking about just the way he's done things with politics to get in office. It's ingenious, really. But
yeah, I just read that Bob Woodward book. Holy shit.
He gave him talking a lot of the things he's talking about, and me, I'm a centrist. I don't disagree with everything Republicans say, but when the Republican Party puts a bullseye on my entire LGBT community's back of our head, because right now, as far as the world's concerned, I'm a trans woman and I'm a lesbian. So I'm a double hit for some of these, conservatives. And
you're ginger. If you were black, you'd be like finally giving some real diversity to this podcast.
So it's only percentage.
I know. I'm probably not allowed to say the word ginger, although half my family's redheaded. So,
but it's crazy. But Trump, with his immigration, that is the one thing he has been forefront on the entire time. His immigration policies. I agree with a lot of it. I don't agree with some of the execution. I don't agree with everything he's doing. But a lot of the stuff, we can't just open our borders. I agree with that. Protecting our borders. I get.
There is some sense if you have any borders, it's important to protect them. But building a wall ain't going to do shit.
I agree.
How about stop fucking hiring undocumented workers? Trump yourself if you're, if you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not against undocumented workers. Depending on the economy of, depending on what's beneficial for the society as a whole, what's beneficial for those people. But the truth is, wall ain't going to stop them. Stop hiring them and then calling INS on them 6 months later. That's what's going to,
The problem is, majority of our illegal immigrants aren't just walking across the border to the wall. They came and their visas have expired and they've stayed.
Yeah.
That's where that whole dreamer thing and all that comes in. And it's like, if you've been here 30 years, you've built a life, you're paying taxes, and somehow you've done this, I can kind of understand some clemency. But yeah, if you're walking across the border, it's like you're going to give me the wonderful free stuff that America has. Well, we don't have that much free stuff.
I'm about to say, it's so easy. Everybody thinks it's so easy to get on welfare and just stop working and you can live like a king. But I mean,
yeah, that's not the easiest thing. I've been at the bottom of the barrel before, and maybe a race thing does help a little bit. I don't know. I can't say that it doesn't. I can't deny that, but I'm white, so I can't say that it made it any easier or better for me.
I mean, I'm trailer trash. Like I grew up in a Fleetwood double wide. Man, we could go on forever on politics. The problem with my problem with the Democrats is that they it's not that they don't care. They don't even consider working class people.
Agreed.
They don't. It's kind of the idea. There was a company where a guy gave everybody $70,000 a year. It's like you can't live really well off of anything less than $70,000 a year, according to this guy. So he gave the janitor $70,000 a year. Well, he didn't up his engineer's salary, so they're still making $70,000 a year. And they're like, "What the fuck, man? I got an engineering degree. I got all these student loans to pay off. You pay me like you pay the janitor." And he couldn't have foreseen those people leaving and going somewhere else. It's like, well, of course, you just said they were worth what an unskilled laborer is worth. And they've got college degrees and, a license to protect and all this other shit. Democrats are that guy. Democrats are like, we're going to make sure, we're going to try to take care of the poor people. And we're going to tax the really wealthy because they're fine. Even the ones that are wealthy are like, we're fine. We'll gladly pay more tax. And I would pay more taxes
I still think
for a better society.
Flat tax would be done. That way it's fair across the board.
Yeah, we do not need to have a political discussion because I don't think flat tax is that good either.
Really?
But but they don't acknowledge, like, the problem is if I say something like, stop discriminating against gay people, stop discriminating against trans people on Facebook. Before the last election, 90% of what I got back was how Hillary and Obama was giving people phones, for free. I got to pay $100 a month for my phone. They're just giving them to these welfare people. And, that's what you hear, and that's working class people. The thing is, if you want to give the guy $15 an hour to flip burgers, but you're still giving the guy $15 an hour who worked his way up to $15 an hour in manufacturing, then they're never going to fucking understand you. They're never going to vote for you. They will vote against their own interest because of that. And you can't blame them. My problem with the Republican Party is their entire platform. They want to interject religion into schools and government.
Not only one religion.
Yeah, well, yeah, they want to interject theirs. And even if they got it, it wouldn't be like, there's not one Christianity. There's as many Christianities as Christians. Yeah. I guarantee you, even people who are all a part of the same church and say they believe the same stuff, you ask them individually, issue by issue, they're all
over the place.
All over the place. It's funny that God thinks just like them, though. So they want to do that. They deny that global warming is a legitimate thing. They, a lot of their economic system has been proven false. Like they're against the consensus on history. They all read David Barton's history. Is David Barton? Who's the guy? They all read the same historian who makes up his own fucking quotes. They deny science when it comes to evolution, global warming. And it's just their economics are terrible. Their civil rights are terrible.
No, I can't. Republicans, and this is where it sucks. I guess this is why we have to keep going flip-flop from one extreme to the other. You get Democrats in office and in control, and then suddenly we get a whole bunch of social justice. But then you get Republicans back in, and the economy starts to pick back up. It's nuts.
Well, yeah.
So why they can't just go, oh, you know what? We should leave these people alone and just let them live their fucking lives. And hey, look, if we do some tax deals here and cut some breaks here and give these people a break and build the people that are worth a few billion a little extra, maybe we should do this.
I mean, the economy was better under Clinton than it was under Bush, but the problem with that was it was Clinton and a Republican Congress, and they fucking fudged the numbers, took money out of Social Security to make it look like we had a surplus. Sexual orientation, that's, again, it's on a spectrum too, who you're attracted to. So just because I feel like a woman inside doesn't mean I don't feel like a gay woman. Case in point, our guest today. Albert Kinsey was supposedly the first person who came up with the idea of a spectrum of sexuality, or continuum rather than gay and straight being binary. So we talked a little bit about the law, the Canadian law, Bill C-16, that's supposed to protect trans people. These are some misconceptions I want to go, or misunderstandings. That's where even people that I used to like to listen to, like Sam Harris, are like, what if they want me to call them a 13-digit number and then I don't do it and I get fired? That's not going to fucking happen. It's all going to be like that situation I had with the student in chemistry lab. It's like, oh shit, I'm a little bit embarrassed That's as much as I've been harmed by this. Somebody did recently just get fired for continually misgendering somebody.
A student.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But, I mean, it wasn't I accidentally misgendered somebody. It was I continued and refused to be.
Harassment at that point.
Yep. Science. Oh, this is the one that gets me. Fuck Ben Shapiro. Have you seen that?
I try not to.
You had to have seen it. I've seen it a million times. You had to have seen it.
The
Like it.
Or which part?
The one where it's this video that gets shared on Facebook all the time that says Ben Shapiro destroys a liberal snowflake or a trans woman or whatever. Like gets shared, and he starts talking about.
You're trans doesn't mean I have to accept.
Well, then he reverts into it's basically like you have a mental problem, and he reverts to biology is clear. And that's why I wanted to say biology's not fucking clear. All these fucking people who you couldn't tell them an interesting fact about biology. Ask these people if they know anything about tick-to-lick. That's one of my favorite biological discoveries. It's actually more of a paleontological discovery, but it's one of the most interesting things about biology to me. Tick-to-lick being it's a fish with limb buds. So we knew we had like land fish, basically walking fish. We knew we had fish that predate them in the water. We knew about what years those things lived.
Right.
We knew about where rock formations were that were between those years. Somebody predicted we'll find in this layer, we'll find something that's a fish with limb buds. And that's where they found tick-to-lick.
Right.
Evolutionary biology is predictive. You've got dinosaurs, you've got birds. You look between them in the fossil record, you find feathered dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So nobody wants to talk about tick-to-lick. You start talking global warming, everybody's a fucking climate scientist. You start talking evolutionary biology, everybody's a goddamn evolutionary biologist. No, it's intelligent design. It's this, that, the other. It's not. It's evolutionary biology is confirmed at every level you can possibly confirm a theory.
Snakes, if you pick up say you have a pet snake, python, garter snake, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
If you are able to look at the underside, their belly scales, you will see nodules, which were the remnants of old limbs.
Yeah, snakes are lizards.
Yeah.
The same way that we are monkeys.
They evolved past the point
aside from special pleading, we're monkeys. You're a monkey, mate. I mean, because you have to have special... We're speaking hairless, tailless apes. You're a fucking monkey. We all are monkeys.
Yeah, without being in the same family as the actual apes. Yeah, we really are. We're probably a secondary species that were so similar that evolved out.
No, what happened was, at some point there was a fusion of two chromosomes. If you look at the other old world apes, chimpanzees especially, if you take I forget which chromosome it is, I think it's their 2 and 13 are fused, or it's 2 of their chromosomes have fused. I don't know how familiar you are with crossing over and in the process of, I'm going to say meiosis. Process of cell division, you end up with, like when your chromosomes are replicating, there's a part where there's crossing over and you'll end up with like your telomere switch or whatever. Well, something fucked up in where, they kind of fused. 2 of their chromosomes actually fused rather than splitting back apart, and where the telomeres on the ends of the chromosomes are now on the center part, the centromere of us. And we've only got one chromosome and it's in a different location. Right. That's why we've got 46, they've got 48. And if you line them up, aside from the telomeres and the centromeres, it's basically the same information.
Right.
So now it's not just that one day there was a bad crossing over event, and then we had a human being and he had to go find something to fuck. It was a selection issue that got favored at some point. And
the larger rib, and then the bigger forehead or whatever.
Yeah, and then, and it's not like whatever that thing was years ago is still around. It's like chimpanzees came out of that. We came out of that. Chimpanzees and bonobos, who are my favorite because they don't fight. They just fuck each other all the time.
Yep, pretty much.
But yeah, so people don't look up Kim Miller's talk on that. What's different? Why we have 46 chromosomes? It's wonderful. But he explains it. Nobody wants to talk about those. They love to talk about evolution. They want to talk about trans people because XX is women, and XY, the sex chromosomes, for those listening at home, is male. XX, 2 female sex chromosomes, XY,
Most of the time.
male and a female. Well, that's the thing. First of all,
There are legitimate cisgender females with XY chromosomes.
correct.
There are legitimate cisgender males with XX chromosomes.
Right, which then you get into the question of, you know, basically it comes down to, they say, well, it's just biology. You got an X and a Y, and that's a male, and if you got an X and an X, that's a female. Well, they also want to say you should go to the bathroom or whatever assigned to your sexual features. If you have a penis, you're a man. What was it? Well, you just told me that XY was a man. Well, yeah, XY has a penis.
Yep.
That could be called into question. Now, okay, you want to talk about majority, that's fine, but don't talk about it like it's a fucking law. You want to know about a law when it's like, oh, evolution not a law, it's just a theory because you don't understand science. But now all of a sudden you're acting like it's a law that an XY is a male and an XX is a female, and that's not the case. That's also not the only...
This is why those laws keep getting stopped, because it's not as simple as a lot of people want to think.
That's also not the only combinations you can have. So we'll talk about some of that. We'll start with one, and then we'll go back to just talking other bullshit. Are you familiar with androgen insensitivity syndrome?
Yes.
That's when, for those of you who are not familiar, a person is genetically male, X and Y chromosomes, resistant to male hormones, androgens, and then that way they end up with some or all of the traits of a female.
So they're basically a natural transgender person.
Right.
So without the need, like I have to take hormones externally to shut down the testosterone blocking and to give me the estrogen in my body, they actually naturally develop these things.
Yep. And also Swyer syndrome is on the same line as that. It's the androgen insensitivity. You're XY but become female. There was an episode of House MD I think it was called The Perfect Woman. First of all, it was creepy because House was a beauty queen and she was 15 and House was just, wanting to examine her. That's a little creepy. What with societal standards today about 15-year-olds and everything?
Well, remember the lead actress from Stranger Things won Sexiest Woman Alive at 12 years old.
Oh, God.
If that doesn't tell us what's going on.
That's creepy. So yeah, there was an episode of House where this beauty queen comes in. She's got all these problems, and then it figured out that her ovaries were actually testes, and she had Swyer syndrome, where she was XY, similar to androgen insensitivity. And again, these people, they appear female, but they have to have hormone. They do have to. Some of them have to have hormone therapy to grow breasts and to menstruate, which is weird because they don't really menstruate because they don't really have ovaries, but with a little hormone therapy, they pull it off. So yeah, that's one case. So aside from biology, you hear a lot of times, especially from religious people, that gay isn't happy because if they were happy, they wouldn't have a higher suicide rate, and trans people are worse people because their career choices and crime and stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, when you won't hire somebody for a job that other people have, maybe they get into something like drug. They're more likely to get into criminal behavior or, some shady entertainment jobs or something. And maybe the gay lifestyle isn't always happy because people have tormented the shit out of them in most societies since we can remember. Maybe not going back to Greece, but Thank you for listening. That's going to end our episode today. We're going to kick it into extra innings. That'll be something we save for down the line when we have a way to patronize us. We'll have some bonus material for everyone. Be on the lookout for part 2 of my interview with Robyn. Have a great day.
I never realized before, but everything that I do is carefully calculated just for you. I've shied away from bangs and I've taken off all of my favorite rings. specifically 'cause I know that you're not into those things. I can't remember what I like. You got to me, blew out my light. These thoughts I'm thinking, baby, aren't even mine. This torch, it burns for me this time. It ain't easy to reclaim what you've never had. Oh, but I'm discovering the journey isn't so bad. Yeah, maybe I do have good ideas, and maybe you are the one that is wrong. I never believed that my opinion belonged.